The 1st of September, 1939. After a false accusation that the Poles attacked a German radio station, Nazi Germany launches a retaliatory campaign against Poland, triggering World War II. Poland finds itself fighting a two-front war when it's invaded by the Soviet Union from the east on the 17th of September. Warsaw officially surrenders to the Germans on the 28th of September, and one day later, in accordance with a secret protocol to their non-aggression pact, Germany and the Soviet Union partition Poland. 5 years later, on the 1st of August 1944, the Polish Home Army, a non-communist underground resistance army, with units stationed throughout German-occupied Poland, rises against the German occupation authorities in an effort to liberate Warsaw. The impetus for the uprising is the appearance of the Soviet forces along the east bank of the Vistula River. The Soviets, however, failed to intervene, and the Germans eventually crushed the revolt, razing the center of the city to the ground. One of the Nazi officers responsible for the brutal suppression of the uprising and the unspeakable atrocities committed by his troops is Heinz Reinefarth. Heinz Reinefarth, the son of a district court judge, was born on the 26th of December 1903 in the city of Gnesen, today's Polish Gniezno, then part of the German Empire. Reinefarth was 14 years old when the First World War ended on the 11th of November 1918. In the aftermath of the First World War, and during the German Revolution of 1918 to 1919, Freikorps, or independent paramilitary units, proliferated across Germany. In March 1920, while still a high school student, Reinefarth followed the call of Major Bruno Buchrucker, with whose Freikorps unit he participated in the Kapp Putsch, which was an attempted coup against the German national government in Berlin on the 13th of March 1920. Its goal was to undo the German Revolution of 1918 to 1919, overthrow the Weimar Republic, and establish an autocratic government in its place. It was supported by parts of the Reichswehr, the German army, as well as nationalist and monarchist factions. After finishing the gymnasium in 1922, Reinefarth became a member of the Freikorps Oberland 1 year later. He then studied law in Jena, graduated in 1927, and passed the first-degree state exams. Until 1930, he completed his application at the local court in Jena and was promoted to judge. In 1932, he became a member of the Nazi Party and the SS, and the same year he got married. The marriage produced a son and a daughter. Until 1939, he worked as a lawyer and notary in Cottbus. At the Lausanne Conference in 1932, Germany, Britain, and France agreed to the formal suspension of reparations payments imposed on the defeated countries after World War I. Thus, when Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in January 1933, the financial provisions of the Treaty of Versailles, which imposed harsh penalties on the Germans, had already been revised. Hitler was determined to overturn the remaining military and territorial provisions of the treaty and include ethnic Germans in the Reich as a step toward the creation of a German empire in Europe. The German armed forces engaged in secret rearmament even before the Nazi takeover of power. Therefore, the Nazis supported rearmament and rapidly expanded arms production. Military conscription was reintroduced on the 16th of March 1935 in open violation of the Treaty of Versailles. At the same time, Hitler announced the expansion of the German army to more than 500,000 men. After a prolonged period of intense propaganda inside Austria, German troops entered the country on the 12th of March 1938, receiving the enthusiastic support of most of the population. Austria was incorporated into Germany on the following day. In April, this German annexation was retroactively approved in a plebiscite that was manipulated to indicate that about 99% of the Austrian people wanted the union with Germany. Neither Jews nor Romani were permitted to vote in this plebiscite, and this union became known as the Anschluss. The failure of the British and the French to take action against Adolf Hitler for violating the Versailles Treaty emboldened him toward further aggression. In 1938, Hitler threatened to unleash a European war unless the Sudetenland, a border area of Czechoslovakia containing an ethnic German majority, was surrendered to Germany. The leaders of Britain, France, Italy, and Germany held a conference in Munich in Germany on the 29th to 30th of September 1938 in which they agreed to the German annexation of the Sudetenland in exchange for a pledge of peace from Hitler. Czechoslovakia, which was not a party to the Munich negotiations, agreed under significant pressure from Britain and France. On the 15th of March 1939, Hitler violated the Munich Agreement and moved against the Czechoslovak state. The Czech provinces of Bohemia and Moravia were proclaimed a German protectorate and were occupied by German forces. Slovakia became an independent state, closely allied with Germany. Hungary, which had annexed territory in southern Slovakia after the Munich Conference, seized the Transcarpathian Ukraine. Czechoslovakia ceased to exist. Little more than a week later, on the 23rd of March 1939, German troops suddenly occupied Memel. Lithuania was unable to prevent this occupation. Hitler also raised territorial demands on Poland in the spring of 1939. He demanded the annexation of the free city of Danzig to Germany and extraterrestrial access for Germany through the so-called Polish corridor to East Prussia. Convinced that Hitler would not negotiate in good faith, Britain and France guaranteed the integrity of Polish territory against German aggression, which became reality on the 1st of September 1939 when Nazi Germany invaded Poland, triggering World War II. Nazi Germany possessed overwhelming military superiority over Poland. Germany launched the unprovoked attack at dawn on the 1st of September with an advanced force consisting of more than 2,000 tanks, supported by nearly 900 bombers and over 400 fighter planes. In all, Germany deployed 60 divisions and nearly 1.5 million men in the invasion. The assault on Poland demonstrated Germany's ability to combine air power and armor in a new kind of mobile warfare. The world adopted a new term to describe Germany's successful war tactic, Blitzkrieg, or Lightning War. For his actions during the invasion of Poland, Reinefarth received the second-class Iron Cross. The German occupation of Poland was exceptionally brutal. The Nazis considered Poles to be racially inferior, and they launched a campaign of terror intended to destroy the Polish nation and culture, and to reduce the Poles to a leaderless population of peasants and workers laboring for German masters. Ethnic cleansing was to be conducted systematically against the Polish people. In the first 3 months of war, from the fall of 1939 until the spring of 1940, some 60,000 former government officials, military officers in reserve, landowners, clergy, and members of the Polish intelligentsia, such as scientists, teachers, lawyers, and doctors, were executed region by region in the so-called intelligentsia action, including over 1,000 prisoners of war. In the spring of 1940, the German occupation authorities launched the AB Action, which was a second stage of the Nazi German campaign of violence during World War II, which aimed to eliminate Poles considered to be members of the leadership class. The aim was to remove those Poles seen as most capable of organizing resistance to the German rule and to terrorize the Polish population into submission. The Germans shot thousands of teachers, priests, and other intellectuals in mass killings. The German invasion of France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands started on the 10th of May 1940 and became known as the Battle of France. Initially, British and French commanders had believed that German forces would attack through central Belgium, as they had done in World War I, and rushed forces to the Franco-Belgian border to meet the German attack. The main German attack, however, went through the Ardennes forest in southeastern Belgium and northern Luxembourg, and German tanks and infantry quickly broke through the French defensive lines and advanced to the coast. Belgium and the Netherlands surrendered in May 1940. Between the 26th of May and the 4th of June 1940, more than 300,000 French and British troops were evacuated from the beaches near Dunkirk across the English Channel to Great Britain. Paris, the French capital, fell to the Germans on the 14th of June 1940. Reinefarth, with his infantry regiment, took part in the campaign against France and was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. Operation Barbarossa, the German invasion of the Soviet Union, began on Sunday the 22nd of June 1941. After initial great successes by the German troops, the advance came to a standstill in October and November 1941 due to the onset of the Muddy Period. Hitler tried to conquer Leningrad, which failed, and the following siege lasted 872 days from the 8th of September 1941 until the 27th of January 1944. The blockade became one of the longest and most destructive sieges in history, and it was possibly the costliest siege of all time due to the number of casualties which were suffered throughout its duration. As a result, the Wehrmacht lacked the strength to take Moscow, and a protracted war was imminent. Reinefarth took part in the invasion of the Soviet Union, and in mid-1942 he became unfit for military service due to severe frostbite suffered on the Eastern Front. He left the Wehrmacht, and on the 20th of April 1942, he was promoted to SS-Gruppenführer, the equivalent of General Major in the Wehrmacht. After promotion to Brigadier, Reinefarth was appointed as General Inspector of SS in the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia, and as such was one of the most important associates of the Chief of Order Police, Kurt Dirlewanger. In September 1943, Reinefarth was transferred to Berlin, where he served in the Ministry of Order Police. In April 1944, he was appointed Higher SS and Police Leader in Warta, and on the 1st of August 1944, he became SS-Gruppenführer and Lieutenant General of the Waffen-SS and Police. The Waffen-SS was the military branch of the SS. In this capacity, Reinefarth was ordered to organize a military unit, with which he participated in the suppression of the Warsaw Uprising, which began on the 1st of August 1944, when the Polish Home Army, a non-communist underground resistance army with units stationed throughout German-occupied Poland, rose against the German occupation authorities in an effort to liberate Warsaw. The impetus for the uprising was the appearance of the Soviet forces along the east bank of the Vistula River. The Soviets, however, failed to intervene. In 2 days, the units of Reinefarth, which included the brigade of Oskar Dirlewanger, the Nazi officer and pedophile, murdered approximately 60,000 civilian inhabitants of Warsaw in what is known as the Wola massacre. This massacre was ordered by Adolf Hitler himself, who requested to kill anything that moves in order to stop the Warsaw Uprising. Dirlewanger's unit used women and children as living shields when attacking enemy positions. They burned 3 hospitals with patients inside. The nurses were whipped, gang-raped, and hanged naked together with the doctors. A radio conversation between Heinz Reinefarth and the commander-in-chief of the 9th Army, Nikolaus von Forman, has survived, in which he asks, "What shall I do with the civilians? We have more prisoners than ammunition to kill them." They dealt with this on their own terms. When Dirlewanger's unit found a daycare with 500 children inside, Dirlewanger ordered his men to kill every one of them, but because he wanted them to save their ammunition, they beat and stabbed the defenseless children to death with rifle butts and bayonets. After securing the Wola area, Reinefarth troops drank, raped, and murdered their way through the old town, slaughtering civilians and fighters alike without distinction of age or sex. In the old town, where about 30,000 civilians were killed, several thousand wounded in field hospitals overrun by the Germans were shot and set on fire with flamethrowers. For his merits in the suppression of the Warsaw Uprising, Reinefarth, nicknamed the Butcher of Warsaw and the Murderer of Warsaw, was awarded the Oak Leaves to his Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross on the 30th of September 1944. The Germans eventually crushed the revolt and razed the city of the center to the ground in October 1944. Though they treated captured Home Army combatants as prisoners of war, the Germans sent thousands of captured Polish civilians to the concentration camps in the Reich. 166,000 people lost their lives in the uprising, including perhaps as many as 17,000 Polish Jews, who had either fought with the Polish Home Army or who had been discovered in hiding. In November 1944, Reinefarth was given command over the 14th SS Corps on the Upper Rhine, and in December of the same year over the 18th SS Corps in the central Oder River area. Between January and March 1945, Reinefarth commanded the defense of Festung Köstrin. He declined to defend the town to the last man, and Hitler found fault with the way he withdrew his troops. Heinrich Himmler, acting on Hitler's orders, had Reinefarth arrested at the end of March 1945. Later, he was sentenced to death by military court. However, the sentence was not carried out, and he continued to command those of his troops that had managed to leave the fortress. Reinefarth then moved his troops to the west and surrendered to the British. After the end of World War II, the Polish communist authorities demanded his extradition, but the British and American authorities of occupied West Germany decided that Reinefarth could be useful as a witness at the Nuremberg trial. His testimony, however, did not take place. After the trials, he was arrested for war crimes, but the local court in Hamburg released him shortly afterwards on the grounds of lack of evidence. The reason, however, might have been Reinefarth's intelligence activity for the Americans. Reinefarth went on to live a normal life. In December 1951, he was elected mayor of the town of Westerland, the main town of the island of Sylt, and in 1962, he was elected to the Parliament of Schleswig-Holstein. After his term ended in 1967, he worked as a lawyer. Despite numerous demands by Communist Poland, he was not extradited, as the German courts had ruled that there was no evidence of him committing any crimes. He was considered not guilty in the eyes of the law and the federal government. He received a general's pension upon retirement and died as a free man on the 7th of May, 1979, in his mansion on Sylt. On the 10th of July 2014, in light of Reinefarth's atrocities, the Schleswig-Holstein State Parliament expressed its deepest sympathy to the victims of the Warsaw Uprising and regretted that it could become possible after 1945 in Schleswig-Holstein for a war criminal to become a member of the state parliament. There were no tears shed for Heinz Reinefarth. Thanks for watching the World History channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.